Breaking news now, the Justice Department has sent a letter to Robert Mueller. That letter telling the former special counsel that the Justice Department expects him to keep his testimony to within his report. This is a major blow to radical Dems like Jerrold Nadler, the head of the Judiciary Committee, who says the country has not yet moved on from Mueller's report.
No, the country has not moved on. I mean, the president and the attorney general have lied to the American people about what was in the Mueller report. They found no collusion. That was not true. That it found no obstruction.
Well, Jerrold Nadler is wrong. In fact, he's lying. The latest Wall Street Journal NBC poll finds only 21% of registered voters in the country say there is enough evidence for Congress to begin impeachment hearings, and that is a 6-point decline just from June. Judicial Watch releasing a report detailing the sabotage of the president's third country asylum deal with Guatemala. It involves pervasive political corruption in Guatemala, as well as embedded leftists in the U.S. State Department. The U.S. ambassador to Guatemala, according to Judicial Watch, Luis Arriaga, whose loyalty to President Trump has been questioned, has been called back to Washington. The State Department has not yet responded to our request for confirmation. Joining us tonight is the president of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. Tom, good to see you, and this is a remarkable development, recalling our ambassador with the allegations by your organization that this is a matter of subversion within the State Department, whether it is ideological, whether it is partisan, whatever it may be. Right. It is an action against the interest of the United States. Give us your thoughts here tonight.
Well, the United States and Guatemala were about to ink a deal that would have allowed migrants to be put in Guatemala while they waited asylum claims, similar to an agreement we have with Canada.
Right.
And that was torpedoed as a result of it being leaked. And the left in Guatemala took action to make sure the Guatemalans wouldn't be able to sign it as well. And so as a result, this a key new tool to restrict this crisis or end this crisis was taken off the table. And we believe it was the left in concert with these leftist activists within the State Department working with their allies in Guatemala. And it's a major issue in Guatemala because, on top of the current political discombobulation as a result of the failed deal, the left is poised to take over the government of Guatemala next fall, which obviously is just going to make things worse.
And obviously, it is a friendly government to the United States, but at the same time, leftists and NGOs, nonprofits working in the area from the United States, many of them are working against U.S. policy with Guatemala, working against our immigration policies that we're trying to move forward, and our border security policies. This is starting to look like a broader, if you will, cooperative arrangement amongst Central American countries. The leftists in this country, members of our State Department, including perhaps the U.S. ambassador to Guatemala himself.
Well, the prior ambassador is no longer there. He was an Obama appointee. He's gone. The new ambassador, our understanding based on our reporting, wasn't much better ideologically. And it's not a question of whether you support President Trump or not. It's a question of whether or not you're going to do your job to promote the policies the administration put in place by the voters of the American people. And whether it be the State Department, DHS, FBI, DOJ, there are a lot of officials who think they know better than the voters. And that's contrary to the rule of law and undermines everything we're trying to do to protect our country, certainly in the southern, over this border crisis.
I have to say, Tom, that I'm one of those people who is, I think that we have been very constrained in ascribing hurt feelings, disappointment as a principal motivator for these folks who are acting against national interests, against the policies and directives of this president. I think now it's time for us to start considering very strongly the possibility that this is an ideological divide, that the collusion that so many said they were concerned about between President Trump and Russia is really something we should examine on the part of the left in this country and the leftists in other countries, including the Iron Triangle, the Central American nations, because this is, there just seems to be too much of a cooperative effort acting in concert against the interests of and policies of the United States.
Yeah, there is something called an international left. You see it with the Iran deal. You see it on immigration issues. They don't limit their discussions to only the United States. They work with allies and governments and nonprofits abroad to attack policies they disagree with. It's ideological. In some cases here in the United States, some of it is partisan. But these government agencies are full of individuals who see their goal is to advance their ideological agenda as opposed to do the jobs they're being paid to do on behalf of the American people. It's a real abuse of the public trust. And, you know, I'm glad to see the DOJ is trying to rein in one of those folks, Robert Mueller, from trying to
And as we wrap
President
up here,
Trump.
Robert Mueller, what do you expect? Will he stay within the public boundaries as he is required to do? And to what degree will the Justice Department be able to constrain that? We have just less than a minute.
I think he ought to stay within the public boundaries. Whether or not he does is almost irrelevant because the goal is to have a circus, and just having him show up and say something is something the Democrats want done. But given the constraints of his testimony, arguably the only substantive part of his testimony should be his maladministration of the special counsel office that abused President Trump and other people caught up in his web.
Tom Fitton, as always, and Robert Mueller will live with the contradiction to his own words that the final report of the special counsel will be his testimony. It is obviously that is going to be contradicted.